Our final presenter this evening is a professor of classics and humanities at Reed College. Dr. Ellen Millander has published numerous books and articles on the political, social, and intellectual history of the ancient world, including corruption, military organization, terrorism, and gender mores. A few years ago, she collaborated with OPB for a series called Politics 101 BC, for which she explored the similarities and the differences between ancient democracy and the one that we know right now. It is all too fitting that her presentation, Democracy and Its Discontents, is taking place on the heels of tonight's third and mercifully final presidential debate. Please welcome Dr. Ellen Millander.
Now, if a 5th century BCE Athenian citizen were to come back magically to life during this election year, poor thing, would he be perplexed by or familiar with our version of democratic government? Both American and Athenian versions of democracy, after all, put kratos, power, in the hands of the demos, the people. Still, the Athenian version was, in its heyday in the 5th century, a very different beast. A direct democracy comprised of free Athenian male citizens, sorry ladies, male citizens over the age of 18, who voted and elected their officials in an assembly that met on the Pnyx. And again, if I can just show you here, I'm going to hold this in my hand. This is the Pnyx. At least 40 times per year, served on juries that dealt with a tremendous amount of litigation, and had the opportunity to serve on the council that drafted the legislation for the assembly. Athenian citizens also directly audited and could prosecute their officials, and the will of the people reigns supreme. Now, despite its obvious appeal, authors of the period had plenty to criticize about this system of government. One apparent outlier, or at least I thought he was Herodotus, the creator of the modern discipline of history, who chronicled the Greeks' victory over the Persians in the early 5th century from about 490 to 479 BCE. Now, Herodotus was keenly interested in the benefits and drawbacks of different political systems, as he demonstrates in a passage that he probably invented, known today as the Constitutional Debate, in which he pits three elite Persians who will compare monarchy, democracy, and oligarchy. Now, Herodotus has long been viewed as a proponent of democracy because in this debate he has one of the Persians, Otanes, claim that popular rule possessed the fairest of names, isonomia, which in Greek means equality before the law. Now, Herodotus' Otanes here is praising the benefits of deliberation, of election by lot, and also accountability. Herodotus, in another famous passage, later praises the Athenians' embrace of what he calls isagoria, which means equality of speech, or freedom of speech, after their overthrow of tyrannical rule circa 510 BCE. Now, what's not to like in a system of government that's founded on the equality of law and speech? Apparently a lot if we read Herodotus carefully. He was, I'm going to argue, in fact, no fan of democracy, and he even believed that popular rule in general was a completely unworkable system of government. Throughout his work, Herodotus undermines Otanes' praise of popular rule through extremely negative depictions of collective decision-making. Such depictions rather support the other two speakers in the constitutional debate, who criticize the people as an unthinking mob and assert the power of human self-interest in all systems of government. Now, particularly salient here, and I can only give you one example, is Herodotus' account of the rise of Miltiades, the aristocratic general who oversaw Athens' victory over the Persians at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE, and thereby gained what he saw as undue influence over the Athenian people. Okay, in this passage, he tells us that Miltiades easily deceived the Athenians into giving him ships, troops, and money, and so emotionally manipulated them with his promise of enrichment that they did not even ask about the object of the expedition he was fighting for. Here and elsewhere in his work, Herodotus, whom I thought was a defender of democracy, repeatedly underlines inherent weaknesses that, to his mind, made democracy, as admirable as it may have been in theory, unworkable. First, basic human self-interest that to his mind overrides civic mindedness. Second, the dangerous power of persuasive rhetoric. And third, a passive, easily manipulated and unthinking electorate, which together put the state at the mercy of selfish and ambitious individuals. One can only wonder what Herodotus would think if he were to appear and behold our present democracy. Many today suggest that something's gone terribly wrong with our system, and imagine a time when democracy was both more deliberative and more functional. Herodotus, however, I think, would likely say that our problems are just par for the course, because at the end of the day, democracy can't be any better than human nature allows it to be. Thank you.